Republican Senator Tom Coburn. It's nice to see you, sir.
Hey, good to see you.
I sort of thought that was a little bit of a swipe at you and your colleagues, some of your colleagues, but you've come out with a report called Prognosis. And as I understand, reading the report is that you predicted some things, and now, a while ago, and now you're trying to see if your predictions were right, one of which is, let's talk health care costs. You said you predicted they'd go up.
Yeah, and if you look at the average new insurance policy, it's going to cost 40% more than it did last year. That includes higher deductibles and higher costs. For a policy that's not like the one you had, and you don't like it as well, doesn't give you the same access that you had. So we know the costs are going to go up, and we know the average. And as a matter of fact, we had the head of the Cleveland Clinic said 3/4 of the people who lost their insurance are actually going to get insurance that they don't want.
If you listen to President Obama today, it sounds like the greatest thing to happen in America.
Look, that's politics of it. We have pre-existing condition in this country right now. It's called the Unaffordable Care Act. And what we have to do is eventually fix it. The president's 28 times has done fixes to it because the law was so lousy. Most of those are going to get challenged in court. Ultimately, since we don't have standing, we have to have injured parties to bring those cases. But the fact is their motives were good. We needed to fix the healthcare system. But the one thing they forgot is markets allocate scarce resources better than any government program. If you want to make something expensive, have the government run it. And that's exactly what we've done. We've made health care for millions of Americans less affordable with less access.
You mentioned pre-existing conditions, and that's the one I think that probably pulls at most Americans. And you made a prediction about pre-existing, that patients with pre-existing conditions, that they'll still face care restrictions. And then in your report, you say, you explain that even with this provision in the Obamacare, that there's still going to be restrictions for those people.
Well, there was 2 levels of this. Remember, in the intervening period, there was this pool of funds that they shut off very early for people with pre-existing conditions. So that's number one. Most of the promises that were made over the last 3.5, 4 years didn't come to fruition for those people with pre-existing conditions. Now, with pre-existing conditions, you'll have access, which I agree with. I don't disagree with that as a physician, for sure. But the access you have is limited, one, very expensive, based on age. That's the main requirement, age and whether or not you're a smoker, and the limited choice of who's going to be your caregiver. So I don't think you'll find anybody on Capitol Hill that doesn't think we should have not taken care of that, and also not taken care of the lifetime limits, which the Affordable Care Act did. But most of the other bills that were going to run alongside that at the same time did it anyway.
All right, let me ask you the one, the medical device tax. For some reason, that one really makes me a little upset, because now you have 32 Democrats in the Senate and 42 House Democrats who want to repeal the medical device tax. And the thing that makes me a little bit crazy about that one is that it was in the bill from day one. They never bothered to read the bill, and then suddenly after the bill is passed and they find out that their constituents are medical device makers, suddenly they want it repealed.
Here's the facts. 47% decrease in investment by medical device companies in this country since this bill.
Well, I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm not saying that, and I understand your position that it should be repealed. I'm saying this, like, is it, why didn't anyone bother to read the bill in the first place? Now suddenly these Democrats suddenly think, oh, that's a terrible thing, because it's their constituents.
It's their constituents, and that tells you that it's not about policy, it's about politics. And we should have never had a deal about politics. If you want to move big things in this country and solve big problems, you got to do it on a bipartisan basis. This bill never had any bipartisan support, and that's the reason that it's going to fail. It has failed so far. If you look at numbers and affordability, you have 5.9 million people in 35 states lose their insurance. They've signed up, quote, today, 7.1. We don't know what portion of that will stick because they have to pay the bill. That's when you have insurance. That's when you've actually paid. But 5.9 million people now, 4 million of those now have come into the exchanges to get a policy that they can't afford or is less affordable to them, with a group of caregivers that are different than what they have.
To insure about 3.1?
No, we got 4.1. No, that 4.1 are people that will buy it. 2 million people have made a choice to say, this is not a good deal. I had insurance. I was happy with it. I could afford it. 2 million people have now said, I'll take the fine because it's better for me to put the same amount of money that I was putting in my insurance policy in the bank to cover me. And if I get sick, then I'll sign up.
Senator, always nice to see you. Prognosis, and I assume we'll get another version before you leave office,
Probably
right?
so.
Another one. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.